evening. Would you please stand? Flag salute all remains and have appropriate prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bless us, Lord, as we gather today for this Freeholder meeting. Guide our minds and hearts so we may work together for the good of our community. Help us to be generous in our outlook, courageous in the face of difficulty, and wise in our decisions. Amen. Amen. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, this is to announce that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. Also pursuant to the 2019 bylaws, rules, and regulations of the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Burlington, time shall be set aside on the agenda for the receipt of public comments. Public comments will be received with respect to agenda items prior to the board consideration of resolutions to be adopted. An additional opportunity for public comment will occur later in the meeting. Public comments shall be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Unused time may not be transferred to another speaker. Persons may speak once per public comment period. I direct the deputy clerk to enter into the meeting minutes of this meeting this public announcement and advance written notice of this meeting. Freeholder Hobson. Here. Freeholder O'Connell.
Here.
Freeholder Singh.
Here.
Freeholder Tiber.
Here.
Director Polian.
Here. At this time, I'll be looking for a motion for the approval of minutes of the regular meeting of April 24th, 2019, and the conference meeting of April 24th, 2019. I will need to abstain from vote.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Director, I'd like to also abstain from vote then.
No. Abstentions? Ayes have it. So we have two recognitions this evening. The first one is the Asian American and Pacific Islander Day of No Bullying. That's going to be presented by our Deputy Director, Burlington.
Thank you, Director. I'm not presenting to any particular individuals. It's something that for the county records and also to recognize me as the Asian American and Pacific Islander Month and some of the events that happen in schools and encourage more conversations about bullying, especially when it's related to students with a different religious practices and ethnicities. So as an educator myself, this is something observable in schools directly, and then also as a student myself, I believe sometimes stereotypes that may be a joke to few end up really hindering the growth of individuals in the long run. So I have a few lines that I would like to read to the audience. Whereas the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Burlington wish to recognize May 18th, 2019 as the Asian American and Pacific Islander Day of No Bullying. May 18th is the birthday of Vincent Chin, who was brutally murdered in a hate crime in 1982. His murder fueled a national Asian American activist movement that continues to this day. We're now seeing a staggering rise in bullying, discrimination, and hate crimes in an anti-immigrant and xenophobic climate. Whereas in honor of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month and Vincent Chin, May 18th shall be a day of no bullying. And every day kids of all ages suffer from being bullied in schools and online across the country. And whereas an Asian American and Pacific Islander community faces this problem often, and compounded by cultural, religious, and linguistic barriers that can keep these youth from seeking and receiving help. And certain subgroups, including South Asians, Muslims, Sikh, of which I'm part of the faith, Micro-Asians, LGBT community, the immigrants, and limited English proficient youth are more likely to be targets of bullying. And the statistics show that half of Asian Americans report being bullied. Two-thirds of those are usually Sikh Americans face bullying, and half are usually Muslim Americans that report being bullied because of their religion. Act to Change is the organization. It's a national nonprofit dedicated to fighting bullying in the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. The board joins Act to Change in sharing one vision, we envision a world where all youth, including within the AAPI community, have the opportunity to grow up feeling proud and supported in the development of their identity and sharing of their stories. We must continue to empower students by advocating for systematic change and providing resources to promote healthy communities. And now therefore be resolved, the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Burlington does hereby proclaim May 18th as Asian American Pacific Islander Day of No Bullying, and is committed to this important issue and encourages the public to foster dialogue, share resources, and learn more about what they can do to fight bullying. Thank you, Director.
Thank you. This time, the board will recognize a longstanding public servant of Burlington County. For nearly 3 decades, Sheriff Gene Stanfield has been dedicated to improving the lives of the residents of Burlington County. Over the course of a 26-year-long career working for the county, Sheriff Stanfield has demonstrated a strong commitment to ensuring the safety and well-being of all residents of Burlington County. On January 1st, 2002, Gene Stanfield was sworn in as Burlington County's first female sheriff. Sheriff Stanfield is the second woman in New Jersey's history to serve as a county sheriff. During her time in the Sheriff's Department, Gene obtained over $6.5 million in grant funds to create and maintain community programs that serve youth and senior citizens. Other grants have enabled the Sheriff's Department and local law enforcement to conduct proactive anti-crime and traffic enforcement operations. Burlington County is very fortunate to have had Sheriff Stanfield as part of the team for the past 26 years. Gene, the entire board thanks you for your years of service and true compassion for those in need. I'd like you to come up over here, please. I've had the pleasure of knowing her, I think, for close to 26 years, okay? And I can truly say that every time that I engaged her with something, either personally or to do with municipal government, she was quick to respond, and I can't really remember a time where she didn't help. And I know that your presence over the last couple of years on the Route 130 corridor using that grant money has really helped the traffic and infractions that occur over there, which I thank you for, because that's on the fringe of my municipality. And we have a proclamation here for you. I'm not going to read it because there's so much stuff here that you did. It's too long. But I want to give you this, and also we have another little appreciation. And after all this time, you get a clock.
All right.
I'm going to miss you very much. Success, you know, whatever you do next. Okay? And why don't you say a few things?
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone. It's really been an honor to serve as the Sheriff of Burlington County. Obviously, I didn't do it by myself. We have many good men and women in our department, and I'd like to just say thank you to now Sheriff Diane Jasmine and Under Sheriff Mike Ditzel. They've been by my side and helped all along the way, and it's been a team effort. We have a wonderful department, and I've been blessed to work with so many people in the county government and state government. Just so many friends I've made, and so many wonderful memories I'll miss you all. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to have a public hearing presentation on open space. Mary Pat Robbie, our Director of Resource Conservation, will be giving a presentation, and then I will open to the public hearing on open space. Mary Pat?
Thank you, Freeholder Director. Good evening, everyone. We are here tonight talk about Burlington County Open Space Recreation and Farmland and Historic Preservation Trust Fund. I didn't give it that name, the people in front of me did. And I just want to point out that this picture that we're seeing is a picture at our county fairground. It may look like we're in the Wild West, but it's in Springfield Township. So we're really excited to have host to a pair of gold eagles. So, New Jersey law allows counties to submit to the voters a proposition authorizing imposition of an annual levy with the amounts raised by that levy to be deposited in an account, a trust fund, and used exclusively for those purposes permitted by law. The permitted uses of the trust fund are acquisition, development, and maintenance of land for recreation and conservation purposes, acquisition of farmland for farmland preservation purposes, historic preservation, and payment of debt service on indebtedness issued for any of the above purposes. So, in 1996, we first went to the voters of the county and asked them to approve a dedicated levy of up to 2 cents per $100 of equalized valuation. And that tax was slated to sunset in 2011. In 1998, we went back to the voters and asked them to approve an additional 2 cents, again with the sunset of 2018. In 2006, we found ourselves pushing up against some issues with regard to issuing debt and issuing installment purchase agreements for acquisition of land. So we went back to the voters the third time and asked them to continue those taxes until 2036. And the voters were very, very supportive of all three referenda. So every year, the Freeholder Board has to decide how much to raise in this tax up to 4 cents. And then they have to allocate it amongst the approved uses of the dedicated fund. So, since 1996, I'd like to review a little bit of what we've done with the monies that have been collected. We have a county easement purchase program for farmland preservation. We have preserved over 30,000 acres of farmland and 251 farms. That brings a total of preserved farmland in Burlington County to 62,139 acres. And that's through the county program, through the state program, through Pinelands development credits, and transfer of development rights programs. And we are still ranked as one of the top 10 counties in the nation as far as farmland preservation. Open space preservation, we have preserved 6,572 acres of open space, of which the county owns 3,133 acres. We hold conservation easements on 3,250 acres, and they are mostly lands that we've helped our municipalities preserve under the local open space program or our not-for-profit conservancies. We also have a long-term lease of 189 acres, and that's at the Palmyra Cove Nature Park. Park development and historic preservation, we have over 1,000 acres of developed parkland. We've helped our municipalities improve 225 parks. We've constructed 9 regional parks, 39 miles of park trails, 11 miles of regional trails. We have 14 miles of water trails. We've built the county fairgrounds, the county amphitheater, the agricultural center. We've made quite a bit of difference in preserving Smithfield Park, which has 25 buildings that we'll talk about a little later that are in dire straits and need a lot of help. So we're trying to get there in Smithville. We've done major renovations at the Prison Museum and the Warden's House, and most recently the Lyceum of History and Natural Sciences in Mount Holly. So we're going to go over the proposed budget and use of the trust fund dollars in 2019. As far as the budget is concerned, we are proposing that we assess a rate of 3 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. That is an increase from last year's number of 2.5 cents. We're also recommending that all of those funds be allocated to park development and maintenance and historic preservation. So our budget looks like this. We're expecting revenues from the dedicated levy of $14,403,536. We're getting income of $3.3 million from mostly our funding partners, the state Green Acres, the SADC that helps us with farmland preservation, and the Department of Defense that helps us with the buffer around the base. We're going to rely on about $5.8 million from our reserve for total revenues of $23.6 million. As far as appropriations of those funds, about $2.8 million are appropriated for salary and wages. $3.7 million is identified as other expenses, but what that really is operation and maintenance expenses related to the county park system. 12.8 is going into new improvements, new trail projects, acquisition of lands for farmland and open space, and historic preservation projects. And 4.2 will be allocated to debt service. So let's look at some of the expenditures. Farmland preservation, we will continue to receive applications to preserve farmland. In this round that we opened in January, we received 7 applications. And just because we're not putting any money in the farmland account doesn't mean that we're anyway backing off of the preservation program. We've just had such success in getting other support from the state and federal government that the county dollars that go into preservation are very limited at this point in time. So we have to also monitor every farm that we preserve. So we will monitor the 250 farms, continue to address rates of farm issues, support the agricultural community in any way we can, and we are going to be replacing our farmland preservation signs, which are starting to fade, and we will be preserving the new signs will actually be constructed with recycled electronics. So I'm pretty proud of that. As far as open space preservation, we're just going to be focusing on small parcels of land that we need to make trail connections, predominantly around Smithville Lake. We are not yet able to circumnavigate that lake, and we would like to be able to do that. So here's our improvement projects. This is a project we started last year. We have a 600 linear foot floating trail at Smithville Park that took a pounding in Hurricane Irene. We had to close that about 2 years ago. And at the beginning of May, we opened the new floating trail. We have a lot of regional trail projects that will be under construction this year. The first one being the Delaware River Heritage Trail, which is a 5.5-mile trail, which will connect the existing trail in Fieldboro, come over Route 130 into Crystal Lake Park, back under Route 130 to the Roebling Museum in Florence Township. So that construction contract has already been awarded, and we're looking to a spring of 2020 completion date. Next trail project is the Rancocas Creek Greenway. We are going to be able to connect Anaco Island Park in Delran to Pennington Park in Delanco. It's a 4-mile trail, of which 3 miles of that trail are going to be off-road. About 1 mile will be bike lanes on county and municipal roadways. We're looking for a construction date to start in early 2019 and a completion date again in fall of 2020. The Arnie's Mount Trail in Springfield Township, highest elevation in Burlington County. We will be constructing a 2.5-mile hiking, biking, and equestrian trail. We'll have a trailhead with access from Juliustown Road, picnic areas with rental pavilion, and again, looking for a fall of 2020 completion date. We've also recently been notified that we've received 2 additional grants, both for feasibility studies and both for trail connections. One will look at a trail between the Pemberton Rail Station into Brendan Burns State Park. The other will look at a connection between our Rowan property in West Hampton down into Smithfield Park. And I should mention that the 3 prior trail projects are all federally funded. We've gotten grant dollars to fund 100% of the construction costs of those trail projects, and it's a little over $15 million. Willingboro Lakes, it's a 120-acre parcel of land right off Route 130 in Willingboro. We received a $1.1 million grant from Green Acres to improve that park. The improvements are going to include a new entrance off of Beverly Rancocas Road, a restroom building, play area and picnic pavilion, fishing piers, canoe and kayak beach walk, and pathways to circumnavigate both of the lakes in Willingboro Lakes. The other project that we hope to get underway is the Smithfield Pedestrian and Bicycle Enhancement Project, and that is to improve safety of pedestrians along Smithfield Road, where historic Smithfield Park is, as well as Smith's Woods. We're looking for a multi-use path for both bikes and pedestrians. It will connect to the existing trail networks at Smithfield Park and Smith's Woods, and we're also looking to try to slow the traffic through to this section of the park. Wrong way. Sorry about that. As far as our historic preservation projects, we're continuing to invest in historic Smithfield Park. We have 25 structures that are in need of help. We have, over the past couple of years, prioritized the repairs and renovations that need to be made. In 2019, we will be focusing on masonry repairs to the walls of the structures to make sure that they continue to stand until we can make additional improvements. The Lyceum of History and Natural Sciences. We completed major renovations to the envelope of that building last year. We are now in the midst of designing a museum of general history for the county. Also, we have prepared a landscape master plan. If you've not been to this facility, we have a lot of land in the back of the property that is really, really beautiful, and will make a great space just to go and relax or event space. We will be constructing a park storage facility at Smithville this year, looking to complete that construction by the end of the year. And this is a new building that will store a lot of the parts, supplies, and equipment that are stored pretty much all over the place in insecure locations. So, not going to be complete until we talk about parks, events, and programming. We are starting, for the first time, an outdoor movie series. It will be held through multiple parks throughout the summer and into the fall. At the end of June, we start our 2019 Amphitheater Summer Concert Series. They are free concerts on Friday and Saturday nights until the end of July. This Saturday, we are holding our Garden Expo in conjunction with the opening of the Farmers Market at the Agricultural Center. That goes from 8:30 until 2. And we have all sorts of programming going on all spring and summer long, from history lectures, cooking courses, farm fair, and nature programs for the whole family. If you haven't seen our Parks program book, I encourage you to pick it up. This is the spring program book, which goes through the end of May. The summer one is at the printer and should be available within the next few weeks. So that is how we are proposing to spend the trust fund dollars in 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Beth. At this time, I'll open it up to the public for any agenda items. So if anybody would like to... Oh, I'm sorry, public hearing. I'll take it. Yeah. At this time, we'll take comments on the presentation.
For the open space, correct?
Correct.
Carol Melman, Springfield. A couple of questions. Have there ever been a request from the public for specific parks? You mean improvements for specific? Acquisition. Yes, we do. What would be the largest number of people that ever requested a specific park to be acquired? I don't know that I could. Would 1,066 be a number that's acceptable to acquire a park? Because that is the current number of people that have signed the petition to acquire the Pemberton campus. And the money is there, and as of today, DEP confirmed that the county has not looked into acquiring the park. You haven't done anything. 1,066 people currently have signed that petition. The number continues to increase, and this county has done nothing. Done.
Okay.
There'll be more later.
Anybody else?
And there's Louis Lopez from One Holly. Just curious, the levy, instead of 3%, what would happen if it stayed at 2.5?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Instead of, I'm just asking, instead of, it's, 3%, not 3 cents, running back where it was 2.5, how that would make a difference?
As far as revenue, you mean?
Yeah.
Carolyn, how much is the difference in revenue?
We would lose about $2 million, and all it would mean is that we would have to cut back on the number of park improvement projects that we run as well.
Thank you.
So, okay, so just for my edification, because that's a great question, I've never asked it, about every half cent equals how many dollars approximately? 2 million? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Director, can I ask a question? The municipal park grant, is that included this year or no?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
It is?
yeah.
And we didn't, unfortunately, did the municipal park run last year, but we plan to bring that back.
Good evening. Charles Caramana, I'm a resident of Chemung. I am also, behind the Freeholder Board again, the chairman of the Burlington County Bicycle Coalition. So on behalf of bicyclists throughout the county, we think it's a laudable job that the entire county's efforts towards making this green space available to us and expanding it. Most of you know that this is increasing popularity and an increase in the form of transportation, and it certainly reduces carbon footprint in the area, and it's not going to go away. So we appreciate certainly Mary Pat's efforts in championing some of the projects she does, and the Freeholders' effort for supporting her in what she does. And that's all I got right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Boyle. I'm a resident of Edgewater Park. I am also, I work for the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia, and we are a member of the Circuit Trails Coalition. We totally support the increase in the levy to 3 cents to enable completion of the circuit trails in Burlington County. Mary Pat gave a pretty awesome presentation just now of everything that the county is doing. All these years of sort of putting the money together and acquiring the land is now happening all at once. So, we're just like over the moon about this. It's just a great program, and we hope that the county continues to support building of trails and circuit network, open space, farmland preservation. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Hello, my name is Sonia Stenstein with the Tri-State Transportation Campaign and also the New Jersey co-chair of the Circuit Trails Coalition. I just wanted to thank the Freeholders as well as Mary Pat for continued support of the Circuit Trails. The coalition as a whole wholly supports the increase to 3 cents. Not only will that help us complete the network in the county, but it also gives people destinations to go to and visit your beautifully green county and attract both residents and people from outside. The increase in funding will be key to meeting our mutual goal of 500 miles by 2025. But in the meantime, we're really excited about the upcoming construction of the Delaware River Heritage Trail, the Rancocas Greenway, and the Arnie's Mount Trails. And I have a few reports for you guys, just to remind you of the network.
Thank you.
Thank
We did get that in the mail.
Oh, great,
We appreciate
awesome.
that.
Go ahead, Sandra, I'll take it.
Good evening. My name is Tim Brill. I'm the Central Jersey Project Manager with the New Jersey Conservation Foundation. NJCF is a member of the Circuit Trails Coalition as well here. Continued investments in open space, farmland preservation, and recreation facilities, as well as historic preservation, will help leverage municipal, state, federal, and nonprofit grants. Your staff has been very successful in applying for and receiving grants over the years, and we're looking forward to that relationship continuing here. And projects on the circuit trails like the Delaware River Heritage Trail and the East Coast Greenway are really important to the region here going forward. We commend Burlington County for lots of hard work over the years in farmland, open space, historic preservation, as well as the development of your park system and recreational facilities, including segments of these important trails. And we look forward to many groundbreaking and ribbon cutting ceremonies in the years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Randy Rothman from Mount Holly, and I'm just here also to support the increase in funding. With all the development you're seeing around us, to be able to preserve the open space we have left is really important, especially for clean water, clean air, for our environment, to preserve those areas, especially properties and easements along the creeks and waterways. And I would love to see some of that money go to buying some of the easement properties along the Rancocas, so we can perhaps look into finally connecting the small rail trail in Mount Holly to either over to Smithville Park or on the other direction to Longbridge. I think that would be a great connection. I know there's some areas along the creek going to Longbridge that that the county doesn't have easement on. A lot of it the county doesn't, and some of it is owned by Mount Holly. But I think that would be just a great trail. I know crossing over 541 is an issue and how to do that, and but and also reaching out to waste management to try to see if there's any way possible we can get any access to the railway access that they have along their property, along the landfill, because it's already there. And we can make turn that into a rail trail back there to go over to Smithville from Mount Holly. I think that would be a wonderful project. So just something to keep in mind.
Thank you.
Hi, Lori Howard, Mount Morrow. In terms of historic preservation, is it any way possible to move the Black History Museum from Smithville to Burlington City? Just trying to think long-term in terms of that's where the
You
underground...
mean the underground river museum?
Yeah.
I think it was there and it was
Oh, can I
moved.
finish?
Yeah.
Thank you. Because all the history on the Underground Railroad is there versus Smithville, so just something to think about in the future. So I think we do have a nice area in Burlington County when you talk about Mount Holly, Burlington City, you have Timbuktu right there. Just a way to connect that better, because I don't know, maybe Smithville was part of that trail, but we have such great history right in that area about Burlington County with, Rancocas Woods and Mount Holly and all of that. Just trying to think if we can do anything in the future to make that connection, because that's a very important part of history. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
Thanks.
Actually, it's, Lori, we were just approached to be a host. It's really not our entity. We're just leasing a space, and that was one of the places where we could give the space to from the county. So we were just trying to figure out space for them.
Sure.
But it's really a
just-
private entity. I think they
Well,
ran out of space or did not have in other place. So we don't really in any position to
I guess
move
just
them.
take it, consider the point, and if you can think of
I don't
something.
think we own any.
Well, I don't know,
place.
I'm not,
Yeah.
just consider the point, if you can think of a way to tie Burlington City with the Underground Railroad and have the county sponsor that or do something, that's all I'm saying.
Gotcha.
I know you don't own what's there now, not
Yeah.
but just to
Okay.
consider the point would be great.
Thank you.
Hi,
Mike Rothfeld, Mount Holly. I was just thinking, there's been so much over the past months about the Burlington County campus, and just hearing tonight that every half cent is $2 million. If it was 3.125 cents instead of 3 cents, that would be $500,000, I think, that's been bandied about in terms of maintaining the BCC campus in Pemberton, which we've heard serves the recreational needs of both young people and the high schools. And that would give us the time to look into some long-term solution. And you're talking about money that's penny extra in terms of the Green Acres program to do that. And it is a Green Acres area between the fields and the creek canoe launch, etc. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Bolger. I'm a resident of Mount Holly. I'm associated with the Rancocas Conservancy, and I have a 40-year background in historic preservation and land conservation. And I'm here to speak in strong support for this increase because of the work you can do. One of the reasons why I've stayed is hoping that these projects will be fulfilled. And some people refer to them as amenities, but my experience is that they're much more central than that. And they provide not only recreation for those who want to enjoy it, but an image for the county that I think can really be transformative. I think the trail system especially, when I learned about this, the concept and the extent of it, could really make Burlington County quite famous. I've seen communities transformed by trail systems like this. And so I can't urge you enough to do that, but also these other wonderful projects. And I want to compliment you on everything that's been done. I actually got my start here 40 years ago, working on Smithville as it was beginning, just as it was beginning. And it was lean times and very meager effort at that point. And it's really been gratifying to see the expansion of farmland preservation, park systems, trails, and I just wanted to say anything I can to encourage you to keep up that work and expand it.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Rita Romeo, Chesterfield Township. I just want to say that I've talked to a few of our farmers just in passing, and we are greatly in support of this. We appreciate all of the farmland preservation efforts over the years, because Chesterfield has certainly benefited, and we really look forward to continuing this working relationship with you, because it certainly has been a great boon to our township. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary.
Good evening, Barbara Rich, Morristown. I hearken back to part of the program and mentioning of the Rancocas Greenway, and in 1996 I was honored to be part and parcel of the planning with DVRPC. I'm on a trustee for the Rancocas Conservancy and very much involved in preservation of open space, and not only in Morristown but hopefully helping other communities and their plans. And the Rowan property brings a charming, well-remembered bell because of its preservation with Henry Rowan and his wife. I thank you, and hopefully you're going to consider the increase in this tax, as it will be used for excellent purposes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, I'll close this portion, and I'll now open it up to the public. Any comments on the agenda item on this?
No,
What am I doing?
let's do I-1 resolution.
Oh, sorry, okay. All right, at this time, I'll take motion to adopt resolution I-1.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it.
You want a roll call?
It's roll call.
Roll call.
Freeholder Hobson.
Yes.
Freeholder O'Connell.
Aye.
Freeholder Singh.
Yes.
Freeholder Tiber.
Yes.
Director Polian.
Yes. Okay, I now ask the board clerk to read aloud resolution I-2.
Resolution to read the 2019 county budget by title only. Make a motion to adopt. Please make a motion to adopt.
Okay, I'll take a motion to adopt.
That's next.
Yeah, just in comment.
Yes.
Look for a motion to adopt resolution I-2.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Freeholder Hobson.
Yes.
Freeholder O'Connell.
Yes.
Freeholder Singh.
Yes.
Freeholder Tiber.
Yes.
Director Polian.
Yes. Okay, at this time, we're going to have a public hearing, presentation of the 2019 county budget. Our Chief Financial Officer, Karen Havlik, will be giving a presentation, and then I will open to the public hearing on the budget. Caroline.
Hi, I'm Karen. I'm sure if I've met most of you. I'm here, so in January. I'm going to be presenting the county's 2019 budget. I come from many years of consulting and audit experience, and that has shaped my approach to any financial document. I know not everybody enjoys the dig-in, but I question everything. So this budget okay, so this budget, I just want to go over a little bit with how we developed it. We started with a thorough review of the 2018 actual expenditures. If something was budgeted for that we didn't spend, we questioned the need for it, and that time either removed it or we left it if there was a reason why it wasn't spent this year. We relied on the feedback from the department heads on potential variances, and we adjusted for any requests if they were feasible and justified. The direction we were given from the start was no increase in the amount to be raised. With that, and our other goals and objectives were to improve and enhance the level of county services while minimizing the impact on taxpayers, to maintain the lowest per resident cost for county services in the state, to strengthen budgetary controls and long-term financial planning to maintain strong credit ratings, to increase the tax base through economic development, and comply with all statutory budget cap requirements. With our goals and desired outcome in mind, we first had to evaluate and understand our current financial position. This ultimately guides us in the direction we take in developing the budget. Do we need to make cuts or increase taxes? So let's look at our financial position. This graph shows the total valuation of all properties within the county that are subject to property taxes. Going back in 2009, you can see we were doing pretty well, and as the years passed, we dove down. But now in 2019, I'm happy to announce we're back up to $48.1 billion. That's about $1 billion increase over last year. The higher number is better. Your taxes are determined by the levy divided by the valuation. So basically you have more properties splitting the bill. Ratings agencies like this slide as much as I do. It shows growth and stability. And more importantly, it shows that others are recognizing that Burlington County is a great place to live and work. All right, another graph. This graph shows the year-end fund balances from 2011 to 2018, and that's the green bar. The blue bar is the amount of the balance that is anticipated in the subsequent budget. So for 2019, we are anticipating more fund balance in the budget. However, the percentage is consistent with the prior year. We have more. If you look at this graph over here, we're at the highest that we've ever been. We have more, so we're comfortable using more and sharing the benefits of a good year with our taxpayers. This slide is showing what's left. So we had $20.6 million in fund balance. We are anticipating 7.3 in the budget. So now in 2019, we're going to start with 13.3 million. Again, this is the highest balance that we've ever had, going back to 2012, but we're still higher than we've been. A strong tax base and healthy fund balance are important factors used to determine our bond rating. Moody's Investor Services upgraded our county's bond rating to AA1 in October of 2018. Then that was reconfirmed March of this year. The strong credit rating saves county tax dollars and reduces interest on borrowings. Positive bond ratings are attractive to investors. Investors are really important to us. The more demand we have from investors, the lower our cost of borrowing. So going back to economics, the demand's up, the price is down. It sounds good, and I actually went and witnessed it with some of my team. We went into the building and watched our bond sale take place, and we ended up having $72 million in orders from the investors, but we only had $65 million in orders to sell. So that drove that cost down. We priced really well. We were told that we priced similar to AAA rated counties, which we don't have yet. So it's good. Alright, so this is our financial overview. This last couple slides just tying it all together. The economic growth, our healthy fund balance, and positive credit rating puts the county in a strong financial position. I have to give credit to the 2018 Freeholder Board, including Freeholder Plan, Freeholder Sig, and Freeholder Tiber, as well as our strong finance department. And they all work very hard every day to keep track of everything. And I can't forget our financial advisors and our auditors, who also keep the county in line and watch the fund balance. So, a strong financial position equals savings to taxpayers. That's as creative as I can. So what you have here, this is the budget that we introduced to the Freeholder Board last month. We received some questions and feedback. However, no changes were deemed necessary. We also opened up to the public. I had office hours every Thursday from 4 to 7 that you all can come in and ask me questions. I did get some really great questions, and I appreciate all the feedback. I want to draw your attention to the amount to be raised by taxation. It's reduced by $250,000. So overall appropriations are greater than they were in 2018. However, it's not funded by taxpayers. The next slide I'll discuss what changed between 2019 and 2018. So these are the revenue factors. They were different from last year. So last year, the amount to be raised was greater. We're also anticipating additional interest earned on investments. This is due to favorably negotiated rates. Thank you to our treasurer, Edward Troy, for doing that. And we also have more cash in the bank. As we saw earlier, that surplus is cash that we earn interest on. So our year-to-date interest as of April 30th was already $380,000. If we continue in this direction, it would be $1 million. We also had increased contributions from the Bridge Commission for infrastructure improvements, and also from the college, BCIT, BCSSD, for their contributions for their debt service obligations. There was also additional grant revenue available, which I have to give another shout out. I'm very proud of our grant coordinator, Shane, and all of our department heads. They all work diligently and they identify the grant opportunities and they secure the grant funding. So as of April 2019, we've already secured $1.1 million more in grant funding than we had in June of last year. So again, if we stay on this track, we're going to be doing really well. Budget factors. All right, so these are all the appropriation changes. During 18, we settled 8 of 10 union contracts and with negotiated salary increases below 2%. We realized full year salaries for vacancies that were filled at the end of 2018, where prior year budget only included prorated amounts. We budgeted for accumulated absences. There's increases due to potential retirements. We're estimating a 6% increase in employee group health insurance. Also, the postage due to the vote by mail implementation. The cost of gasoline, electricity, and other utilities is up. We also now have to rent a storage facility for our voting machines. We have rental agreements with our tower leases that have escalators of about 5% every year. There's also an increased cost of maintenance of patients in state institutions. And then also we have $1.1 million left in grant funding so far to start spending. Part of the budget process is forecasting and looking ahead at what's on the horizon. So these are just some considerations that we go over. The possibility of minimum wage increase. The estimated impact to the county is about $500,000. Most of the county's union contracts expire again at the end of this year. The continued increases in healthcare costs, increasing costs of countywide recycling program, and debt service obligations. These increasing costs aren't specific to the county, they're statewide. We're doing the best we can to manage them, but we have to be aware that they're coming. Okay, so this graph is the budget appropriations. This is in the 2019 budget. It shows all the components broken out according to categories provided on the state form. It's hard to see, but it looks like the highest percentage is in public safety, which is a top priority. Another slide that's hard to see. For a reason, though. There are so many county services available. I kind of threw as much as I could on here. There wasn't enough room. I'm not going to go through them all. We don't have time for that. If you click that again, I'll tell you how much this costs you. All these services you'll get for $875 per year, and that's on an average residential assessment of $238,000. This slide shows the estimated county open space tax rates for the last 3 years. We focus on the 2019 column. You'll see the county purpose rate is 33.74 cents per 100 equalized valuations. You have the open space at 3 cents for a total of 36.74 cents. Now when you take that times the average residential assessment of $238,000, we're estimating your annual tax to be $874. Comparing that to last year, it was $879. So it's a $4 decrease. That's something. This is an interesting graph, if you can see it. This is showing the average residential property detail of what makes up your tax bill. So on the left, you have Burlington County. You'll see the state, or the school portion, I'm sorry, is 64%. Municipal is 21%, and the county is 15%. I also broke it out further to go with county only at 13%, open space and library as at 1% of the total. As compared to the state, we're not that far off. That's the state average. Okay. Okay, I think this is a fan favorite. This is the cost per resident, 2018. We don't have all the 2019 numbers to put that chart together. However, I can tell you Burlington County's cost per resident in 2019 is going to be again at $359. I'm not sure what the other ones are doing. But as of 2018, we're at $359. The next lowest is Bergen at $454. The highest is Cape May, $1,000 is their cost per resident. I also have the state average in blue of $611. So this is a fun slide. Next. And some highlights. We reduced the amount to be raised by taxation. We're continuing excellent levels of service, strengthening public safety, and promoting economic development. The county still has the lowest per resident cost in the state, and we've valued public participation. Over the past month, I've received really great questions and feedback. I enjoyed our conversations, and I thank everybody who did come out. So thank you, that was a good part of this budget. So besides the freeholders, thank you freeholders, but I also have to shout out to the finance department, including Jamie and Monica here tonight, all the department heads for working with me and putting together this budget, all the freeholders and all my professionals. Thank you.
I just want to say on behalf of the Freeholder Board, I know, number one, everybody realizes Carolyn just came on board this year, and I want to say she did a remarkable job in getting situated and put together a tremendous budget for us, and we're very proud of you. We're very proud of the cooperation among the department heads, all the people that helped. It really shows how much that this Freeholder Board and the people that are directly responsible for helping us keep the costs down to the resident. And as you can see, we did that for the previous year. So once again, Carolyn, thank you so much for your efforts, and thanks to everybody that helped out. This time, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the 2019 county budget resolution K1.
So moved. Director, can I make a couple comments before we?
Sure.
First off, Carolyn, I'd like to thank you for all your hard work, all the department heads that also worked on this. It's not an easy task. A couple comments that I had though. First, I noticed that the budget relies on an increase in the contribution from the Burlington County Bridge Commission. In fact, the budget has contribution doubling from 1.5 to 3 million. In the past, the Bridge Commission has contributed to our budget to cover the cost of maintaining the roads and entryways to the Bridge Commission's bridges. Has the cost of the maintenance doubled since January, or are these extra dollars now being used for other projects? Second, the budget assumes the benefit of a full year of salary and benefit savings, I assume. This concerns me because the majority of this board is filling many of these positions. So it worries me that this budget is not taking into account the increased costs for things like workers' comp and Social Security, which come with adding to taxpayer-funded employees. Third, I suspect this is connected to new hiring practices. Operations is increasing by 3%, up from under 146 million in 2018 to nearly 151 in 2019. I guess my issue is pretty simple. Just like most of all of the freeholders up here, we want to keep it as low as possible. I want to cut taxes, not just this year, but in the years to come as well. The people of Burlington County are counting on us to take fiscally responsible steps that will make it easier for them to afford their homes and for their lives for years to come. I know this can be done because this county has done it before. We have cut taxes each year that I have been on this board. At the same time, we build our post-recession surplus. This fiscally responsible approach allowed for the credit rating upgrade from Moody's Financial Services and better environment for job growth. Now, considering all the positive benefits that the new administration was handed, I think we should be able to reduce the taxes by more than $250,000. So here we are, and I believe that there's a little bit of fat in this budget. Therefore, I would like to make a motion tonight that we table this budget so that we can pass an amended budget at our next meeting that includes an across-the-board 0.5% reduction in operation costs. Such a move would, is that my 5 minutes? Such a move would mean getting creative, doing more with less, and yes, cutting a little bit of fat. By doing this hard work, we could generate upwards of $750,000 in savings. Combined with what has already been accomplished, this will provide our county residents with $1 million in tax relief that is based on responsible cuts to operations rather than one-time revenues. Freeholder Director, would you entertain that motion?
Do I ever hear a second to the motion?
No, you have to.
Okay. All right, so, okay. So we open to the public first?
Yes.
Okay.
Public
So
hearing.
at this time, we'll open it up to the public for comments on the proposed budget for 2019.
Citizen Love of Medford, New Jersey. You have a handout in front of you. As far as I'm concerned, you shouldn't pass this budget. $250,000 is nothing. You should cut $10 million from it. The tax levy, that is. You have the handout in front of you. Your spending plan, excluding offsets, is $205 million. Your paid and charged last year is $187 million. I'm using that because we never know what you really spent. Okay, you base everything on the prior year budget. So that's a $17 million increase of 9.2%. You have $13 million in surplus. Most of that's going to lapse. You know it, and I know it. Last year, you had $8 million more ended up in surplus than you anticipated, and yet you increased our taxes $6 million. We didn't need to do that last year. You could have cut that $8 million last year. So we can cut $10 million. So we got the $17 million too much spending, $13 million in reserves. You also have $13 million left, okay, in surplus. That's $44 million that can be used for tax relief, any needed reserves, we don't know what that number is, and any increased spending that's really necessary. So $44 million less a $10 million cut, it still gives you $34 million to play with, including the surplus. The next thing is eliminate Mr. Conway's job. We don't need that $200,000 cost. $150,000 salary is a pension play. You know it, I know it. He had a $49,000 salary with the Assembly with 20 years credit service. He works here for 3 years. He's going to get another $1.1 million to $1.5 million extra pension at our cost. It's a scam. Eliminate them. All right, that's there. I also noticed, okay, you talked about retirements. It looks like nobody ever takes vacation. We got $6.5 million in unfunded liability. I think you budgeted $21,000 number that's in there. It looks like to me everybody has 6 to 7 weeks of unpaid pay. And all we're doing is we're increasing it every single year by increasing the wage rates. The next thing is health care. It's $30 million. I think you have less than 1,400 employees. The blended rate is over $21,000. The employers are paying 11%. Taxpayers are paying 89%. I think you should do a better job with a plan. $30 million. It's 50% of your salaries. It's outrageous as far as the health care is concerned. The bridge patronage pit, I agree with you. Why should toll payers subsidize the budget? There's no rationale at all that we doubled it from $1.5 million to $3 million. You're playing games to get the $250,000 cut. And I know what you're doing here too. You're over budgeting, so in the election year next year, you're going to have a big tax cut. We need property tax relief now, not next year. You can cut $10 million easily. So in essence, what I'm telling you here is there's plenty of fat in this budget because we never know how much you really spend. Look at your budget. It's antiquated, first of all. You look at the budget. What do we have? We have paid in charge and we have surplus of $13 million. We don't know how much $13 million is going to be paid. Look at your audit reports, which is another question. I suggest you get a new auditor. $283,000 is outrageous, especially when we don't get the audit report till June 30th to be exact. 6 months later, the cat was out of the barn, guys and girls. That's there. Every little company that has a bank loan has to have their audit done in 3 months. The SEC, much more. It's a waste of money. Why? So I would suggest you get a new accounting firm and say you want the audit report finished by February. So there's no transparency. I also took 70 pages to make it easy for you, and I sent it to you. I got it all on one page, guys. Look at the increases. We have no clue what is needed. It's based on last year's budget. That's what it is. So you might as well give us next year's budget, 2020 and 2021. So the bottom line is this. There's no transparency. We have no idea what you spent last year, so we can't really judge what you're spending this year. But there's a $44 million pot here of unknowns. You could easily cut $10 million in the tax levy with no problem at all. And I think there's a lot of fact that has to be looked at. I'm not blaming the employees at all. The $30 million, if you have $1,400, the blended rate for your health care is over $20,000 a year, including single. It's outrageous. Do not pass this budget. We want a $10 million cut, and we want it this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Maloney. I'm from Medford, and I'm here representing taxpayers. I have no special interest at all. And the reason why I came is I saw in your newspaper, in the Burlington County Times, I saw a very small snippet of the budget. So thank you for publishing that. And if the CFO, I wish in the future perhaps if you could list the CFO's office hours and so forth, because a lot of the questions I have, I could have probably easily had them addressed with her. So I just wanted to mention that when I saw the advertisement or the notification, I noticed that the levy didn't go up at all, or it had a slight decrease, but I saw the salaries and expenses went up quite a bit. And so I couldn't quite understand what drove that and how that could happen. So I did print out the large budget or whatever it is, and I saw here that we had $1.5 million coming from the Burlington County Bridge Commission, and I also learned today that we had $2.3 million coming from the surplus from our prior years. So to me, I think that addresses where we came up with the funds to pay for these large salaries increases. And so as I looked at the budget, again, I'm a lay person, I'm just representing a taxpayer, the taxpayers of Burlington County. I can see that human resources went up 15%. I see that the county clerk had 41% increase in other expenses. The superintendent of elections had almost a 50% increase. I don't understand. The finance department, thank God we have a new employee here, that went down. And so that's very positive. So the legal department, 24% increase. The prosecutor's office, $500,000 more money. I don't understand it. The juvenile detention center, 9%. The engineering department went from 0 to almost $350,000. And so I just ask that you take the $2.3 million of surplus, you take the $1.5 million from the Bridge Commission, and instead of using that money for increased salaries, that you give it back to the taxpayers. $10 million seems like a lot of money, but I do think that we have a lot of opportunity to give more money back. And again, I'm not special interest. I'm a taxpayer. And thank you. I thought I missed the opportunity for open discussion. Thank you, Mr. Tiver, for opening this up so that we can discuss this. This is, I think it's an opportunity to relook at it. So I appreciate you considering that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Carolyn, I think it'd be a little unfair if I didn't give you an opportunity to consider. Would there be anything that you'd like to point out to anyone based on some of the comments that were made?
I did get Mr. Love's proposal this afternoon, but I haven't had a chance to look through it thoroughly enough. We have spent down some of those reserves that he was talking about, but I haven't gone all the way through it. However, I welcome both of you to come tomorrow. I'll extend my office hours. They had ended last week, but I will do it again and put it up tomorrow between 4 and 7. Give me a call or give me an email. We can come in and go through whatever you want to talk about.
Well, she said that you spent down part of the $13 million in reserves. So was it $3 million? $4 million?
I think we spent 5.7.
All right, so there's 5.7, so it's called 6. There's $7 million out of my 10 right there. Easy. There we go, we just got affirmation. $13 million in reserves, you only needed 6, and we're here in May. May, so you already know the numbers. So the $6 million is duck soup.
Mr. Leopard.
Can you ask more questions?
Mr. Leopard, I'll just say one more thing. We are keeping some in reserve because we have contracts that haven't been negotiated and settled, so we do have to keep money aside to pay those out. So some of that money.
So, all right, call it another $1 million. I went back and looked at your audit reports. You got money lapsing every year, millions and millions of dollars, because you're always over budget, and then you look good because you build a surplus that's higher.
Okay.
But thank you very much. You did a nice job on it.
Okay, anybody else on the budget? All right, this time I'll close it. And I would ask we take a vote on the adoption of the budget, K1.
Freeholder Hobson.
Yes.
Freeholder O'Connell.
Yes.
Freeholder Singh.
Yes.
Freeholder Tyber.
Yes.
Director Pulliam.
Yes. Okay. At this time, we'll have anyone who would like to talk on the remaining agenda items. At this point in the meeting, public comment is limited to items on tonight's agenda. Anyone who wishes to speak on any other topic will have a chance at the public comment section later in the meeting. Please note that this is public comment, and your opportunity provides us with input and feedback. This is not a question and answer forum. Each speaker may only come up once per public comment portion. At this time, I will call Louis.
Good evening. My name is Louis Lopez. I'm resident. I just want to thank Mr. Singh at the last meeting, after sending attention. He did an amazing job at the last freeholder meeting. I just want to approach that out. He did an amazing job.
You don't make me feel bad.
I got 5 agenda items. For the first one is M1, then 8, 10, and finally 18.
Capital improvements. I think this is the money set aside for various capital improvements that we have currently on the books. M8, that was covered in the open space and also the last meeting. That's the Arnie's Trail budgeted, federally funded.
Yeah, we addressed it as well. But yes, this is the money we're borrowing for anticipating all the grants that are going to come in to complete all the trail projects in different parks that we have.
I think M10, is Charlotte around? Charlotte, is the Lumberton Family Apartments urban renewal? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I know it's money set aside to help them with housing, correct?
Construction, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just paid for the construction for low income housing.
Okay, thank you. And for the Department of Corrections, that's just simply the purchasing of two new digital copiers. The ones that were in place were antiquated and on their last leg.
Okay, and I've got a question on the other question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Charles Caramana. I'm sorry, did I say that right?
That is absolutely correct.
I'll be darned.
Okay. Charles Caramana, Chairman of the Burlington County Bicycle Coalition and resident of Chemung. I just have a comment on M7 and M8, and it's to further acknowledge the Freeholder Board and to thank them for all their hard work with green space and the trail system, and on behalf of the coalition and on behalf of my family. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ridge? Are you okay? Okay. Bill Boulder?
I've already spoken.
Okay. Mark Halloran? From Florence? No? Okay. Mr. Love, you already addressed, or do you have something else?
Do you want me to speak again?
No. This isn't democracy, sir, and I'm trying to do my best.
I think I made my point, and the young lady helped me inadvertently.
Yes. And quite frankly, thank you very much for the comments.
I apologize if I got a little loud, but.
Yeah, you're good. That's nothing compared to some of the stuff.
I am. To be honest.
Michael Tam?
Non-agenda.
I'm sorry?
Not on agenda item.
Non-agenda.
Okay. Mr. Rothel? Lori Howard?
Non-agenda.
Non-agenda. John Boyle?
John Boyle, Edgewater Park. I just really want to add to my previous comments about the circuit trails that Mary Pat Robbie and Matt Johnson are doing an amazing job juggling all these balls in the air. If you can get these guys some more planners and engineers, that would be great, because they are really, they have a lot in their plate.
Did you just hear Mr. Love?
I did.
You want me to hire more people?
I'll talk to him.
Okay.
Got a good way to say it now.
I know, it's fine. I'll come out, Sheriff. Please help him, okay? We need help.
They get some federal money.
Thank you. They try, believe me. Okay. And Mayor Romeo?
Non-agenda.
Non-agenda? Okay.
I got here late, so I didn't sign up, sorry.
Okay.
Agenda items, M4, and then, oh, do you want my name again?
Yes.
Carol Melvin Springfield. M4, what kind of engineering? I'm just curious.
I have to apologize because I missed the last conference. I was on vacation.
They're lumped together, so I'm assuming it's some kind of engineering.
I can address that.
Later.
I can address that later.
Okay, that's
I can
fine.
address that later.
M7 and 8, I'm of course in favor of the trails. I just wish you'd consider the Pemberton campus with the 1 mile plus of Rancocas Creek. And then M25, I'm thrilled to welcome Freeholder Tiber to an agenda item. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? I went through the list. Okay, at this time I would like to vote on resolution M1. Direct the board clerk to please read aloud resolution M1.
Ordinance number 2019-00169 of the County of Burlington, New Jersey, appropriating $14,340,930 in state and federal grants for the completion of various capital improvements.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to adopt resolution M1.
Freeholder Hobson.
Yes.
Freeholder O'Connell.
Yes.
Freeholder Singh.
Yes.
Freeholder Tiber.
Yes.
Director Polian.
Yes. Okay, at this time on resolutions I would like to.
Sorry, I need a move in a second.
Okay.
I haven't moved.
Hobson and second.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, at This time, I would like to make a motion to approve resolutions M2 through M6 by unanimous consent.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Freeholder Singh?
Thank you, Director. I'd like to present the resolutions M7 and M8 by unanimous consent.
Second.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Freeholder Hobson?
Thank you, Director. I move for unanimous consent on items M9 through M19.
Second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Freeholder O'Connell?
Thank you, Director. I'd like to propose moving resolutions M20 through M24 by unanimous consent.
Second.
Hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Freeholder Tiber?
Wow. Thank you, Director. First one of the year. Carol, I'm surprised you realized that. I'd like to move resolution M25 by unanimous consent.
Second.
Any
You want
opposed?
another second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, at this time, I'm going to be asking for nomination and election of the clerk of the board. This time, I would like to place the name of Aaron Kelly for consideration for clerk of the board to fill the unexpired term through January 23rd, 2021. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I now declare nominations closed. Eve, roll call, please.
Freeholder Hobson.
Names is read.
Freeholder O'Connell.
Names is read.
Freeholder Singh.
Aaron Kelly.
Freeholder Tiber.
Aaron Kelly.
Director Pulliam.
Aaron Kelly. Thank you for all you do here.
Thank you.
This time I would like to place the name of Stacy Bayard for consideration for Deputy Clerk of the Board to fill the unexpired term through January 23rd, 2021. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I now declare nominations closed. Eve, roll call, please.
Freeholder Hobson.
Name is read.
Freeholder O'Connell.
Name is read.
Freeholder Singh.
Stacy.
Freeholder Tiber.
Stacy Baird.
Director Pulliam.
Stacy Baird. Congratulations. Okay, at this time, I entertain any questions from the press. You got to give us one.
Make something up.
Just, yeah, one. Okay.
You don't want to.
Ask about the pool.
Can I read something they write here? Would you like to hear this? I'll show it to you later. At this time, I'm going to open up for public comment on non-agenda items, okay? Now we'll move on to public comment on non-agenda items. Once again, I'd like to note that this is a public comment and your opportunity to provide us with input and feedback. This is not a question and answer forum. Additionally, each speaker may only come up once per public comment portion, okay? So at this time, do we have any questions on non-agenda items?
Good evening, Lori Howard, Mount Laurel, New Jersey. So I have a quick question. This is not a question and answer. When can we ask questions and get answers?
Right there.
Okay. So
By the way, this is probably the appropriate time, okay? We currently have a new employee, Mr. Love. Sorry. Our new PIO, which is a Public Information Officer. In the future, as you just brought out, any questions after the meeting and follow-up, I would ask you to direct them to him, and he's going to start being our liaison to try and get back to you. Certainly, after the meeting and during the week, I mean, I field all kind of calls. I know everybody on the board does. We do not in any way not want to respond to the public. So please, anytime you have a question, we certainly are going to respond to it.
I just want to also recognized throughout the years, Engineer Berkeley has always been available to answer questions for me. I want to visit there, so I do appreciate all the time that he's taken to help me throughout these years. So the question I have, just in terms of some things I've been hearing, in terms of how our tax dollars are spent. So when I first saw the presentation on open space, I was like, oh, maybe they can add a couple cents for infrastructure. And I said, no, because we're already paying enough money for that. So we have our state taxes, as you know, federal taxes, as you know, and the transportation trust fund money. But again, I really don't know how that's helping our county. I know infrastructure is not really exciting for the public, but I do think it's something that is important and that we have to do a better job investing and advocating for funding. It's very easy, I'm sure, not easy, well, it appears to be easy to sit here and say, well, we don't have any money, but I feel, unfortunately, that unless a crisis occurs, that's when it's addressed. So I am advocating for Senator Bridge always, because I feel that bridge can be easily kind of swept out to the side, so can any bridge in the county, and it's not providing enough money to take care of our roads and our bridges. There's potholes, and again, I'm not blaming the engineer for that, I'm looking for the people that are in charge of helping to allocate our funds, but also people that are responsible for advocating with our state and our federal representatives. Washington, D.C. is supposed to be adding more money for infrastructure, so I think that we need to, in the position, if they say, we have this money for you, we're able to tell them how much we really need. So I don't think it's fair to ask, because people are like, we have all these potholes, what are they doing? And it's embarrassing. There's so much congestion. I know infrastructure is not sexy, but it is something that is important to our quality of life. And I think that we had to make sure that we're, doing what we need to do. We don't have the money in our county. The county's never going to have the money to address all the issues, so I need to know what are you guys doing to figure out how to get this more money, because I've been playing on this money, transportation.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, and I do have an answer for you. The extra $1.5 million we asked for from the bridge is for infrastructure, okay? That's why we asked for the additional money, because we do not have the concern, okay, of the infrastructure and the amount of work that we have to get done. And very thankfully to them, they did give it to us.
Well, that's just not, that's like,
no, it's right, it is. But you know something, I hope that what you do is you look at where the priorities are. I think we've done a good job of trying to see where our constituents' mindset is, and we're trying very hard to address that.
Right, and also just to bring another point up, so I think sometimes I get the feeling, one hand, like, oh, we're definitely not going to rebuild the bridge or do anything. But the other hand, we're doing another feasibility study. So I'd rather don't waste tax money doing another feasibility study if your mind's already made up. So it's hypocritical.
Yeah.
So I just don't get clarity on that. So I'm just wondering, like, to keep doing feasibility studies when you've already done 2 feasibility studies and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, then to add another $75,000. Just be truthful.
Just so you know, some of those monies were already committed from the previous year.
Okay.
So we're kind of obligated to go ahead because it was already there.
Okay. Just another point to keep in mind, just, stop duplicating things and just be honest and transparent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, you had your turn.
Not for the record.
I'm just kidding.
You
should have seen your face when I
just as a point of information, I didn't suggest to cut any employees other than Mr. Conaway,
okay,
which is a pension play.
Okay.
There's enough money there to get the 10 million.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Mark Hollern, I'm a resident of Florence, and I have some materials for each of the 5 freeholders. And I'm going to just briefly go through these. And I'll give you my copy as a receipted copy so it can be part of the official record for this evening's meeting.
Thank you.
I'm here because I want to talk very briefly about rampant warehouse development in northern Burlington County, particularly Florence Township, Burlington Township, and Burlington City's new facilities, the Amazon Distribution Center. A consequence of that development, and it relates to infrastructure that's needed that folks in the audience are supporting, and your doubling is going to be woefully insufficient, has to do with improvements that will need to be made and have been identified by the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission and the Bridge Commission. Florence-Columbus Road, intersections at Route 130 and Cedar Lane, and opposite side a jug handle or some sort of roundabout, and that sort of thing, to keep truck traffic moving, to avoid congestion, and to get it out of the center of town in Florence, most importantly. About 70 tractor trailer loads a day cross very near the county landfill, and they move down Florence Columbus Road, and they cross Route 130 and penetrate the town of Florence, moving over 2.5 miles through the entire town to the Burlington Township warehouses. Now, we know there are going to be some remedies here. There's a weight limiting application that could be made to the county. They're doing some investigation. There's another law that can be enforced, which I've been speaking to the state police and the NJDOT about. So we'll work on that separately. But I want to bring to your attention this evening, the 18 of the 70 loads are having to do with county business, hauling leachate from the county's resource recovery complex to the Florence Municipal Sewage Treatment Plant. So I want to cover the first piece with you tonight, and I want to talk about items 2 and 3 as policy matters that I'd be happy to sit down with any or all of you that might be interested. I have another memo that I want to give to you for consideration that recommends policy changes and more regional planning to address these infrastructures issues that the DVRPC, the Commission, Bridge Commission reports did not. So I want to tell you, and these are just the bullet points from page 1 here, that Florence processes the most leachate of any 5 municipalities. And Burlington County paid Florence about $273 grand in 2018 to process this leachate, and $1.7 million to Accurate Waste Systems to haul that leachate from the municipality to 5 municipal receiving centers. So what would it take to have AWS deviate, and instead of crossing through the center of town past a grammar school where 150 of the 400 children walk back and forth from school every day, where hundreds of homes are located, where thousands of residents live. Diesel combustion particulates are carcinogenic. They aggravate COPD. They cause asthma. Rumbling from trucks causes foundation damages. Neighbors and I can show you ours. Wall cracks. The decibel levels from these trucks are in excess of 90, which is better than you'll hear in any factory, and that causes sustained exposure to the decibel levels of that range causes permanent hearing damage. So I'm laying the pipeline that there's serious health and safety issues that the Florence residents in town are being subjected to by penetration of diesel tractor trailer truck traffic. It's not all the county's fault, but 18 loads a day, 9 in and out, Monday through Saturday, are. And I'm just here to ask if this board can confer, look at this #1 item, talk to your landfill manager, talk to AWS, and simply pick up the phone and ask if they will not take the proper route, which is Route 130 South to Dulte's Lane to River Road and up that road to dispose of their leachate at the Florence plant. I've enclosed a couple of pictures here from school children walking back and forth along Delaware Avenue and Front Street, photographs of AWS tanker trucks passing by residences. It's a lovely neighborhood. If you've ever been up there along the river, this just shouldn't happen, okay? Second, I've also had experience with some of these folks, discourteous conduct in the form of slowing down. They're speeding through town, and they'll give me grief, and I've reported them immediately to our town administrator and mayor. The second 2 items, and I know I've reached my time, I'm happy to meet with you separately and talk about my suggestions, my critique of the DVRPC and Bridge Commission reports, that they were limited in scope, they needed to be expanded, and I have some suggestions for the Burlington County Planning Board's increase in scope of governments to take up a more regional planning activity for this kind of massive new development. We've been killed by this in northern Burlington County, and it could have all been prevented with regional overview. So I invite you to look at this draft memo, contact me at my contact information number. I'm happy to sit with any and all of you and go over my policy suggestions on items number 2 and 3 for reforms in this area. So tonight I'd like to ask how we can, what this board is going to do to correct the deviation, or to make the deviation of the truck traffic happen.
What I'd like to do is, as I said,
please get with our PIO, okay, right now. Give us your contact information.
Right.
And I know I'm going to distribute this to Mark Remza, who is our planner. We can get a copy of this over to the planning board.
Right.
And hopefully we can get some people together.
And this is my little sample of homemade leachate, which is anything you put in your garbage, some actual rainwater from the rainfalls over the weekend. And if you strain this, batteries, pharmaceuticals, whatever, and if you strain this and create the liquid, that's what's going by everybody's house every day.
Okay.
Not pleasant. Thank you.
Good evening. Rita Romeo, Chesterfield Township. I'm going to be short and quick. This is just to say that I very much appreciate, as does North Hanover Township, for agreeing to have a meeting next week to discuss some of the logistical issues that we've been wanting to discuss with the proposed construction of the SRL. So I'm happy to say that, you heard us. We are going to be getting together, and I look forward to an ongoing, thorough discussion of the safety and logistical issues for this. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Mayor.
Mike Rothbell from Mount Holly. I just want to say, with regard to the budget, I think you guys did a good job. It makes sense to take money from the Bridge Commission for infrastructure because the county's expanding, you're getting a lot more residences, and you have to be able to get to the bridge. And like we're hearing in northern Burlington County, the issues that you have. With regard to the surplus, we heard Freeholder Tiber talk about your estimates were underestimates because there's going to be additional costs for workers' comp of employees who are going to be there the whole year instead of a part of a year. And so to have a surplus is important because you don't know what to expect. And that makes sense, and that also contributes to the 1 AA bond rating that you have. So I think what you're doing makes sense. It's easy to pick apart little pieces, but I think when you look at it, the whole thing, you did a good job. The increase in prosecutor expenses, we have some of the lowest paid prosecutors in the state and a very high turnover rate among our prosecutors. And so to increase that budget item also makes sense if you want to retain good people to basically protect the people in our county from criminals and such. So I just want to say that, it's easy to criticize the nickel and dime it, but overall you guys have to make policy and you've done a good job, and the goal is to make the place a livable and a pleasant place to live, not to simply have the lowest tax rate in the world so we can all live in a concrete jungle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Tame, Southampton Township. I've been a couple times and talking about the college, the campus there. I'd strongly recommend that all 5 of you take a Saturday and take a few hours and walk it. Walk along the Rancocas over there. And the county for years has been saying about preserving the property along the Rancocas. There's an opportunity. There's 200 acres there, right along the Rancocas, and it's beautiful. It's probably one of the most beautiful sections in the county along the Rancocas. And I think you should do something about it. I recommend the last meeting that you form a input committee, more or less. Freeholders have the last word on it, and they look into the numbers. The other thing is, when that college was thought of having a college to educate the people of Burlington County, a community college on it, the county had this land right across from the county institutions, the 200 acres, which they were leasing out for farming at the time. Let's go back to 60. The thing about it is, when it was turned over to the college, the deed was deeded to the college, if I'm not mistaken. The intent was to use it for an institution for education. Well, that institution for education only lasted 4 decades, and it's done now. They're not there now. The county has a vested interest in that property. The fact that it was given to them for the one purpose of education for children of Burlington County or people of Burlington County. That means when they're finished with it and they're not using it anymore, the county should get it back. They should get it back. because it belongs to the people of Burlington County. They can't sell it to a developer, they can't sell it to another institution or something. Think about it and look into it. I don't think there's a reversion clause in, I don't know if you checked in it or not, the solicitor has checked into it. But I doubt if there's a reversion clause, because at that time, nobody had any clue that after 4 decades, they were going to move someplace else and leave it. So I strongly recommend that you look into it. It's choice property along the Rancocas there, that once it's gone forever. If you want housing, you want commercial development there, I don't know what you want. But you've been spending a lot of money over the years on farm preservation, preservation for recreation, trails and everything else on it. Many properties have been purchased in Burlington County for an awful lot of money. I know 40 acres was purchased for $2.5 million. The original owner paid, I think, $40,000 for it. There's other purchases made over the years of $9 million. One farm was purchased just to get the trail part of it. Here you have an opportunity to possibly get this property. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ray Toronto, Mount Holly. I guess I'm here speaking for the trees. I'm going to be the Lorax right now. Recently, Mount Holly finally entered into an agreement with the county to be able to plant trees on the county right-of-way in Mount Holly on county roads. And it was somewhat of an onerous process, I guess, for Mount Holly, a little bit, just to get everything in place. And this is a really important issue for Mount Holly. I mean, these are streets, county roads that go through Mount Holly. You've got Washington, Hyde, Pine, Madison, for instance. And I can't imagine anybody wanting to, and these are all gateway roads into Mount Holly. And I can't imagine anyone wanting to drive into Mount Holly and see them completely not tree lined. So it's an important issue that we actually be able to replace trees on those county roads going through Mount Holly to maintain the aesthetics of Mount Holly for, and trees obviously have very other important properties. And I only know of 2 other towns in Burlington, I might be wrong, that have this type of agreement with the county, and that's Morristown and Rivertown. And I can understand there's not a lot of staff on your public works for maintenance and costs, so I think it'd be advisable for the county to make this process a little bit easier for other communities who want to be able to plant a, quote, township tree on a county road, because it is important to each individual town or municipality, and I'm sure there's other county roads that go through other towns in Burlington that have the same issue. Once those trees become mature and age out and die, they would want to try to replace the looks through their downtown areas, their gateway streets coming in town. So I just wanted to bring that up there to make this a little bit easier process for other communities that might want to have it. You have 3 agreements and try to make a template, a boilerplate template that other communities can use, so we don't have to go through the back and forth process that we did to finally get this agreement in place. Because, trees do play, I mean, you're talking about infrastructure, and trees actually are important infrastructure too. They're in green infrastructure. I mean, just for instance, one of the medium-sized trees that we just planted, a single tree at the 2.5 caliber size that we planted, now currently would intercept 206 gallons of storm water right now. But once that's a mature tree, that number goes up to 3,000 gallons per year. As far as CO2 sequestration, that medium-sized tree that we just planted only sequesters 41 pounds of carbon dioxide. But once it's mature, it's going to sequester 801 pounds of CO2 a year. And that's 75% of what a mid-sized sedan would use in producing CO2 if it traveled 12,000 miles in a year. So within 2 trees, you're basically sequestering more than what one car produces in CO2. So if you multiply that out, you can see the importance of trees. So I just want to, and those are just 2 instances of the benefit of tree. You can't necessarily put a numerical value on the benefit of tree, but it has other benefits to the community, to your green infrastructure, taking stormwater management, and sequestering CO2 to the primary one. So I just want to put out there that this should be a process that would be a little easier to work with as a shared agreement between the county and municipalities in Burlington County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Freeholders. My name is Ryan Greck. I'm with Highlands Preservation Alliance. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Tonight I'd like to call your attention to two recent publications. First is an editorial by Burlington County Times published just this morning. I have copies for everyone. Thank you. And it's about the Southern Reliability Link pipeline. It is a tongue-in-cheek happy birthday wish to the pipeline project, which was first presented for approval to the Board of Public Utilities 4 years ago. The editorial board effectively described their incredulity at New Jersey Natural Gas's current construction of the pipeline in Ocean County, given the extensive public opposition and the slew of lawsuits, stating, quote, "That's why the company shouldn't have put a shovel in the ground in the first place," end quote. 4 years, and community groups and residents continue to show up at rallies like the one held along the pipeline route just this past Friday, and at public meetings like this one, to implore our elected representatives to use their authority granted to them by the voters to stand up for us and to stand with us. The other story was published 2 days ago, a new United Nations report compiled by the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, or IPBES, issued the dire warning that nature is declining at an unprecedented rate due to humanity's growth worldwide, and that up to 1 million plant and animal species are at risk of extinction, many of them within decades. There are approximately 8 million species on Earth, so this is 1 million of those 8 million species that we're talking. Among other findings, the report indicates that between 100 million and 300 million people now face increased risk of floods and hurricanes because of loss of habitats and protections. Up to $577 billion in annual global crops are at risk from pollinator loss. We heard tonight that Burlington County has 62,000 acres of preserved farmland. Crops being grown are worthless without pollinators to pollinate them. 75% of land environment, quote, have been significantly altered by human actions, and nearly 75% of freshwater resources are used for crops of livestock. Here in Burlington County, we have one part of the largest remaining wilderness on the eastern seaboard. The Pinelands National Reserve is a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve site. It is home to many species that are only found in the Pinelands. It sits on top of the 17 trillion gallon Kirkwood-Cohansey aquifer, pristine water that sustains life in this area, including us. What this UN report tells us, along with countless other warnings from the scientific community that started decades ago but now are coming fast and furiously and with urgency and desperation, is that our top priority needs to be protecting natural resources like those found in the Pinelands. The survival of 1 million species depends on it, and we depend on it. The chair of the IPBES at the UN stated, quote, "The health of ecosystems on which we and all other species depend is deteriorating more rapidly than ever. We are eroding the very foundations of our economies, livelihoods, food security, health, and quality of life worldwide," end quote. Now is the very worst time to be destroying habitats, putting drinking water sources at risk, building fossil fuel infrastructure through critical protected forests that would transport an antiquated, polluting, dangerous fuel that won't even benefit the residents of this county. Now is the time for you, our elected officials, our representatives, our champions, to stand up against corporate profits and say no to the SRL pipeline. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jean Kovath. I live in Upper Freehold, right smack on the pipeline route across the street from North Hanover on Providence Line Road. As you're aware, last month, or last meeting anyway, the POP, the pop group, brought in pictures of Fisher Road and what was going on there. I want to talk a little bit more on the personal level about what's going on Fisher Road. You're at I feel the Burlington County freeholders are in a really good position to evaluate the issues surrounding the construction of this pipeline. Construction of the pipeline began in Plumstead on Fisher Road, which is .86, less than a mile long. in the end of December 2018. Fisher Road is primarily surrounded by a large produce farm. So there's, I think there's only one home and then a road to a little development on it. It's kind of open to construction. There's not much to stop it from being built. Nevertheless, 4.5 months later, they're digging up Fisher Road, I think the 5th time now, because the pipeline construction is going so poorly. And here's what I know firsthand from a friend who lives in a little development right at the corner of Fisher Road and 528. The first day of work was announced Friday night to start work on Monday morning. The school buses had no idea they would need to reroute, and children were impacted. So these are hints to think about when you're giving permission for this pipeline. In December, the residents were told that the work on Fisher Road lasts about 1 month. Less than a mile long, farmland, open ditches, and some HDD drilling. Now it's 4.5 months later, and the road's been opened and closed over 5 times since December when they started. Last month, when they opened the road again, we drove over to see what was going on. We were surprised because the farm, one of the reasons they wanted to start early right on Fisher Road was because there's picket farms and greenhouses. You know, it's open for the public right now. And I went over to get some plants. And I stopped along the way because the road was opened up again. We thought it had been completely closed down. And the worker told me that they had to, it was not a problem, they weren't digging the pipeline up or anything, but they had to open it up because it had gotten water in it. And from what I understand from people that I've spoken to, water and natural gas pipelines do not mix. Once they're contaminated with water, they're supposedly, now I'm not an engineer and I'm not a chemist, but this is just coming from somebody that knows apparently what's going on. And I was told that the pipeline becomes unusable for natural gas. Excuse me, I get very nervous. So what this worker told me was that they were cleaning out the pipeline with a pig, that pig that's supposed to come through and clean up pipelines to get the water out. Okay, so that was last month. Now, Maria Drive is one of the little roads that comes out. There it connects 528 to Fisher Road, and so that has now become a detour. It's a little neighborhood, new homes, relatively new homes in the neighborhood, quiet, and the trucks are coming by, heavy trucks, heavy equipment coming by day and day, all day long, all night long. They've used it, they can't get the corner straightened out, so they're using that little entrance and exit to the development as their construction right of way. And from what I'm told, the heavy trucks are going in and out of that road night and day, fast. The kids are, kids can't go in the front yards and play anymore. It's not a nice place to live right now, and this has been going on for 4.5 months. So when you think about this company doing this job in this location, it's so poor. I mean, I live on Province Line Road, where we have the same thing. We have wetlands, and the problem apparently with this pipeline and this construction and this HD drilling was
You're almost out of time, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. The pipeline, water seeped into the pipeline because of the wetlands, they said. They weren't prepared to take care of that. Anyway, I just feel that since this is going on now elsewhere, somebody should be able to study this and decide whether this is the right thing to do or not. You have a place to go and look and see how this company is handling this work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, no. So they won't let me. No.
I'll be calmer this time. I'm going to go off script. Carol Melman, Springfield Township. First, I'd like to say that I'm always impressed by the people. Is that me? I'm always impressed by the people who come up here and talk about different issues that I'm unaware of. We have a lot of smart people in this county, so I'd like to thank all the folks who've come up and bring up issues I'm unaware of, because it's interesting. Now, back to script. The pool, the aquatics facility, the Pemberton campus. I was wrong about the number of people that signed the petition. It was 1,066, now it's 1,079 in the time of this meeting. The numbers continue to climb. You have a constituency out there. So, a couple of questions that I know you can't answer right now.
Has the county independently assessed the value of the Pemberton campus? Has the county independently assessed the integrity of the buildings on the Pemberton campus? I know now for a fact that the county hasn't applied for any grant money to save the Pemberton campus because DEP confirmed that for me today. Has the county come up with an alternative site in Burlington County for the high school swim teams to compete? Has the county independently determined the cost of running the Pemberton campus and/or the aquatics program? Okay, I'm taking no, obviously, is no answer is you haven't done it. So for a year and a half, since you've been made aware that this is an issue of concern to many county citizens, you've sat on your hands, done nothing, even though this is an issue that affects thousands of county residents. You were even afraid of an advisory committee being formed to discuss the pros and cons of the Pemberton campus preservation. You have stated that you would be more responsive to citizen concerns. You stated that you would be a more transparent government. In fact, in October, 3 of you were on the board and wanted to act. We are all still waiting. Instead, you show us that you do not care about us. We are citizens and taxpayers. The fact is that you are increasing spending, but not on something that matters to taxpayers and citizens. As I've said, we now have over 1,079 signatures asking for the Pemberton campus to be saved. What will your response be? For 220 years, that property has been in the hands of the people since 1799. Now you guys are giving one finger of each hand to the people, and that's not thumbs. Thank you.
Carol, how long has that petition been?
The petition has been active for approximately 2 weeks.
Good evening. My name is Patty Caruso and I live in Upper Freehold. Director Pullian, I know that the board does not approve of the route of the SRL. I recall several meetings ago that you said you wrote a letter, I believe it was to BPU, stating this fact. I just want to remind you of the places that this pipeline would pass in impact. Chesterfield Elementary School, which is in close proximity and within the blast zone. Numerous churches, nursery schools, fire and police stations, both in Chesterfield, which would prevent them from responding to other emergencies, historic buildings and cemeteries. I know that all of you care about the safety, health, and welfare of the communities and protecting the residents. I think it's worth pointing out that sadly this 28-mile, 30-inch high-pressure pipeline would end in close proximity to Manchester Pediatric Medical Daycare located in Manchester. I would just like to read a little bit about the type of children who attend this facility. The admission criteria is as follows. The child must be under 6 years of age, technology dependent or medically unstable, requiring continuous nursing services. Our capabilities include care of the following: children with tracheotomies, on ventilators, with CVP lines, G-tubes, nasogastric tubes, nebulizer treatments, administration of oxygen, asthma care, diabetes care, children who are unable to thrive in conjunction with chronic conditions and have congenital disorders requiring ongoing medical attention. So basically, these children are medically fragile. Again, I realize that this is not in Burlington, but all of the previous places that I mentioned are. We appreciate that you haven't granted the road opening or road closing, whatever the right terminology is for that. We know that children are our greatest resources, so I want to ask why we're willing to jeopardize their safety. I hope that you continue to stand up to oppose political pressure and be leaders and stop the SRL pipeline. One other thing that Jean ran out of time to say regarding the construction on Fisher Road in New Egypt is that about a week ago, from their installing the pipeline, it has caused dirty water to appear in at least one home. While the water is now a normal color, residents are leery of drinking it. So that's an issue. And again, this is a very small section of a 28-mile pipeline. I'm wondering, we listened about the budget tonight and the property values. I'm just curious, and I don't know this answer in New Egypt, when they have to redo their work 4 or 5 times because the road is not meant for this type of construction, who will be paying for them to do that 4 and 5 times? I would assume if that's done in Burlington, it would be the Burlington taxpayers. I can't imagine that that would be something that's inexpensive to keep digging the road up 4 and 5 times. So that's all I had to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Good afternoon. Good evening. I just want to thank to all my viewers all Burlington County and beyond Burlington County who view it over, I think, over 60 as far as Newark. I view it as far as Newark watching the Burlington County Freeholder Meeting. Even the mayor of Voorhees viewed the meeting. And back to our question, how much it was to store the whole voting machine who was transferred from number 2 to Burlington?
Yeah.
We can get back to you.
It's like about $10,000.
You moved the machines. If you remember.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious. I didn't know the
voting
price.
machines cost us $120,000.
No, but the storage one.
Yeah, the storage facility for the voting machines is $120,000
A month?
Per year.
per year.
Oh, okay. And I just wondering if there's a couple of events going on. I think May 11th, there's a tree planting at the Milldale Park. So start at 10, I think 10 in the morning. If you want, you bring your kids in to see how the French is going to get struggle and stuff. There's other events going on, and I appreciate every of you. I mean, through the other events, especially French. I love your celebrity pictures. That's perfect. And the pictures when you post it on your Facebook of the events you go to, they are amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I loved it too. She watched it. She couldn't come to see everyone now. And I know if I do have a full copy of it, 100% recording of on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louis. Okay, anybody else? At this time, I'm going to close it to the public comments and ask for comments by the freeholders, freeholder comment.
Thank you, Freeholder Director. I saw the sheriff came back in again. I'm glad she did. I just wanted to congratulate you again on your retirement and thank you for your service to the residents of Burlington County all these many years. I'd also like to thank Mary Pat Robbie for the presentation on the open space and farmland preservation. Having grown up in this county, I've seen it change. It's not as agricultural as it was when I was a kid. But thanks to the residents of the county who put their money where their mouth is, I think it's going to be the legacy of Burlington County long after this guy is gone, and many others of us. We've dedicated money for it. We've done it in a bipartisan fashion, and I think it's something that the residents of Burlington County can take a lot of pride in. I'd like to thank my colleagues on the Freeholder Board for their hard work in crafting the county budget for 2019. With no net increase from 2018. I'd also like to thank our CFO, our Chief Financial Officer, Carolyn Holler, for meeting with the county department heads, renewing their budget submissions, staying after work on Thursdays for any residents that felt like coming by that wanted to ask questions, to help us craft the 2019 budget with no net increase from 2018. Finally, I think it's amazing that since taking control in January of this board, I'd remind everyone here, 2 of the 5 of us on this freeholder board were not here last year, so we're brand new. But we reviewed the county's finances with department heads and crafted a budget that's resulted in no net increase from 2018. Having taken control after more than 40 years, I think that's nothing short of remarkable. I look forward to continuing our work on behalf of the residents of Burlington County to show we can be good stewards of their tax dollars and provide the services that they need and that they want. Thank you very much, Freeholder Director.
Thank you. Freeholder Housing.
Thank you, Freeholder Director. I too would like to thank our Chief Financial Officer, Carolyn Hadlick. I think you did an amazing job. So I thank you for the detailed analysis, for the multiple meetings, for explaining and over-explaining all of my questions. I think I asked like the same questions in different ways. So I appreciate your hard work, and it has definitely shown. There's been a few comments here tonight talking about transparency or lack thereof. I actually have to disagree. I believe that we have been extremely transparent. Having our CFO have office hours opens up the door to transparency. I believe my colleagues up here, we take questions all the time. We take meetings all the time. I know, just speaking for myself, I do take meetings from folks who request meetings, and I answer what I can, and I answer honestly. So while some of the answers may not be what you want to hear, I disagree that we are not being transparent. I do believe that we are. I'd like to remind everybody about a few things. We are preparing for the 2020 census, so please start to pay attention. Please start to remind your neighbors, your family, your relatives about how important it is. Money is attached to how many people respond to the census. So we have to be good stewards and make sure that we are paying attention and completing the census responsibly. I'd like to remind everybody about our Women's Council Awards Banquet. That's going to be Tuesday, June 11th. Hopefully you all can attend and help us celebrate some of the amazing women here in Burlington County. I'd like to congratulate the sheriff on your retirement. I'm a tad bit jealous, just a tad bit jealous. So good luck to you. Congratulations. And to all of the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. So Mother's Day is on Sunday, so I hope you all are getting spoiled and being treated to the best possible way that you could be treated. So that is my comments. Everyone get home safely. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Freeholder Title.
Thank you, Director. Sheriff Stanfield. One word, 2 words, I guess it is, that I could use to sum you up since I started working with you on the Freeholder Board 3 years ago, and I think it's rock star. No matter where you go, no matter who you talk to, you make a difference in pretty much everybody's lives that you've been around. I want to thank you for your commitment to all your constituents. It was a pleasure working with you the last 3 years. Your ability to think outside the box to fit their needs is second to none. And I know that you'll bring that drive with whatever holds in your future, and I just want to congratulate you. I also like to thank everyone who worked on the budget. I know it's a hard process, and not all of us can agree. We can all agree that things can be better. It's a hard task. And last but not least, I'd like to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day as well. That's it.
Thank you. Freeholder Singh.
Thank you, Director. Yep. Everything everybody else said, thank you to everyone. And I always say, Jeannie, first time I saw a sheriff, I was just out of college, not the best place. It was a little social hour, but I was with friends and I saw a sheriff at a bar with some people talking, and somebody said, that's the sheriff of the county. And I just went by a little bit, I don't think she remembers me. I was those dad kids, so yeah, when I went by, I'm like, say hi. I know a sheriff. But anyway, so I truly appreciate your work for the county, and I think I've said that over the years. multiple times. Some of the things, our CFO, and Mary did a good job, and our CFO, Carolyn, knows that I ask questions, I'm a teacher, educator, so I ask questions down to what it means for this and this, down to the scenarios. One of the things in a budget that usually gets very confusing is people, like when Mary says we're increasing our funding, and that line is going to be increased for the residents. And then you have Carolyn presenting, we're cutting the taxes, and then the library budget is going to be a little bit of a higher. So at the bottom, at the end of the day, people want to know what does it mean for me. So county overall, depending on the town you live in, is going to have 3 taxes. There's the open space tax that Mary Pat talked about, that we have increased funding for those needs there. There's a library tax, we have an increase there, and there's a county proper, which does all the services that Carolyn had on the slide, and that's where we went down. So overall, if you look at the 3 of those lines combined, people usually in in politics refer to that as a county tax, because those are all county entities in one way or the other. We have a reduction or no net increase. And that was remarkable, as the Freeholder O'Connell mentioned, to come into a position within a few months of not having books open to you, as Freeholder Fiber would know from last year to us, and now having to go through all of that and discovering the oddities, discovering the savings, discovering where the priorities are for this administration. People always say, if you want to know politicians, see where their priorities are, look at the budget. And I said, look at our budget, how we increase funding into the library, we increase funding into the open space, and we cut the funding into the general operations of the county proper. Compared to last year, it was the opposite. The county proper funding went up, library funding was cut, and open space funding was cut. So that's a remarkable transition from 2018 to 2019. And some of the, by the way, except the 3 towns, I think, having Mount Laurel, Morristown, and Willingboro, since they do not participate on our county tax, they should actually have a little bit more pennies or dollar savings than the rest, because they will be saving out of the library tax, which does not apply to them, and that's where the other increase is. So overall, we're looking at a chart with the rates. We're expecting a net decrease depending on where you are, but I did check it for myself, for my house, and I did check it for all the freeholders and their houses. I've tried for some other people, search their property tax records and see what would it mean, and it seems like everybody has a little $10 or $2 lower overall. But the rest, it will all be settled when all the appeals are done, as my CFO always reminds me. Don't make any promises, because the appeals have to get settled in and all of that comes in, and then the tax rate is determined at the end of June and so on, and there's a reason why we can't have all of these things done till the end of that season. The other thing I wanted to mention was I think someone really pointed out about the engineering department having some salaries go from 0 to 300,000, was that right? Somebody pointed it out. And that was due credit to our CFO, who discovered right from the beginning that the county had a very bad practice. We were paying employees salaries on borrowed money. We were paying interest, so we were, instead of just saying, you know what, this is our budget, it's going to increase by 500,000 next year, and this is going to support the salaries, we went and to claim a tax cut, just so we can shout the word tax cut, instead of putting the 500,000 for the salaries, we borrow the 500,000, so we can say our budget is less, and then paid interest on it. And that's the practice that our CFO is ending, and it's going to take a while, because, and this is a prime example I went through. If you have $100,000 and you want to claim a tax cut next year, election year, take $500,000 out of it. And say, you know what, we have only $95,000 budget, look at the freeholders, we cut the taxes, and put the $5,000 as a, borrow that from a bank, and pay only $1,000, maybe that's the highest interest rate possible, and then you can clearly claim, oh, the budget is only $96,000, but notice looking at the $400,000 that you just put out to the bank, and now all the interest that's going to add on to it. That's the practice was in our department, and our CFO is trying to get rid of that problem, because we need our budgets to be more predictable. We borrow money to spend on one-time expenditures. We should not be borrowing money to pay salaries of employees that are going to be there for decades. So there's a lot of things that are happening, and that's why you see some of the budget numbers look a little weird. And in salaries, we settled last year 8 out of 10 contracts as soon as we came in January, along with the other majority. And guess what? All those contracts had been outstanding for years, and they're back this year. Because last year we just made up all the previous years to get them catch up to this year. So yes, we have to have a fund balance because those contracts have to get settled. If not, we're gonna be in the same situation as the years past and be in unpredictable years. And I think the other investment we had was the prosecutor's office. Yes, it's a huge increase in that department, but as someone did point out, we have the lowest paid employees. I would say not just prosecutor's office, but any position we haven't counted, we have some of the lowest paid employees. And then all of a sudden, we passed the budget last year. I think Freeholder Tyler also alluded to it about the partial salaries and realizing all that. I think there was a little bit of confusion. Last year's budget did not have to include all those increases that the contract had negotiated, so it was only a partial year. And this year, all of those salary increases are realized fully in a budget, because now those increases are taking place that were negotiated last year. So there's a lot of salary increases in different departments. That's because all of the years of not negotiating with people that work for the county. I believe those were the only few things I kind of wrote down. Let me just address. Oh, but there's one thing somebody mentioned about having a projected budget and actual budget. Yeah, our CFO, you can pass by her, without her looking into that. So yes, 2018, the original budget proposed was 205, but we do know the actual expenditure for 2018 were 209,042,388.74. We do look at that, what was actually budgeted and what was actually spent. And I believe her first line was, she looks at things that are budgeted and if not used, she cuts that out and asks them if they're used again or not. And then she looks at the rest of the budget and say, why we had increases and see if we need to budget for those. I'm very impressed with our CFO, the whole board, and the work of the whole board to get here. Someone who just always paid attention to a little bit of numbers and try to make sense of how I, as a resident, would feel if my taxes were going up or down. And I think I'm very comfortable with my family and being a resident of the county as a taxpayer that we have a fiscally responsible budget that not only does provide same services or enhances them for the county, but also looks at some of the practices within the budgeting process to improve them for the future. So, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. And that's when you get when you put a math teacher on the Freeholder. Couple things real quick. Our sheriff, I can't say enough, you know that. All the years that I've known you, the great work you've done. You've been a great example to women in the workplace, and I don't think a lot of people can sit back and say that a sheriff's position is an easy one. So you've done it with grace, and we are going to miss you. Aaron and Stacy, thank you for everything you've done since I've come here. I've been here going on a year and a half, and you're both fantastic. Love working with you. You do a great job, and things run smooth because people like you are here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I also want to comment, the sheriff today, I missed it last year, but since I've reached that age of senior citizenship, I thought I'd check out the expo. I went out 10 o'clock today, and I got to tell you, it was great. To see all those people take advantage of those informational services and the great work, pulling all those resources together. I had an opportunity to talk to some of the people in line, and you could definitely tell that it was something that they valued, and they really looked forward to it. And people told me, don't stop it. So, I think moving forward, we're certainly not going to stop it, and appreciate you putting it out there. To our new member of the staff, our PIO director, you've got some challenges ahead, needless to say. I appreciate you coming on board. It's very important what we put out there, that people get it from, us directly, rather than a rumor mill, and how things can be distorted. So you have a little bit of a challenge. We're going to be looking to you to put the wishes of the board and put it out there in the public the way that we want people to get it. Okay. Happy Mother's Day to all the women out there that are mothers. Once again, I want to thank all the directors for showing up. It's a long day for all of you. We really do appreciate. Once again, I want to thank you all for working the way you did with Carolyn. That budget was not easy for a lot of the reasons that our Assistant Director Singh brought out. Be safe and have a great evening. Thanks for coming out.
So, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.